Hello, DFC. Welcome back to another lesson in grade 9 English. Just want to change this number first and foremost. And today we're going to be writing a news article. So today I'm going to show you how to create a news story, a proper news story, just by a headline and picture. And the reason why I want to do this is that it will be part of the grade 10 literacy test, and that's what this course is preparing you for. Now, the test wasn't written in 2020, but it will probably be written in 2021, and it is a course requirement for all students. So the sooner you learn how to write a news report, the more prepared you will be for that literacy test. And I hope you guys pass it when you do write it, whenever you do write it. So I'm just going to go over today's task. Task 1 is to just write a journal entry about one of the writing prompts. And of course, that's in the course materials section of Google Classroom. Next, I'd like you to read the following news story, which is located here at the link. So you just click on the link and it will take you to that news story about cats being the potential carriers of COVID. And I just want you to pay close attention to how the article is written, and especially with how it's used to create a fact-based story. And the reason why I am assigning this story is that I want you to see what news stories are like so that you'll become familiar with them. Task 3 is, once again, no more writing in task 3. I just want you to read this article about how to write a news report. Now, a news report is a story about an event that has already happened. And there are four main parts of a news report. First is the headline. That's simply the title of the article. Next is the lead paragraphs. This is where you'll include your most important information, like the who, what, where, when, why, and how. Next is the body. The body gives more details about the news story and includes quotes about people who were there. And finally, the tail. It gives extra information that is not necessarily as important as your lead information, but it can give you next steps or future plans for the story's subject. It's really important, this point, right? So here's some do's and don'ts about writing a news story. Most important one is this one. Write in third person, so don't use I or you. Write he or she instead. And use the past tense. Remember, this is a story about an event that has already happened. So you want to talk about it as if it happened in the past. And that links to this don't. Don't write about an event that will take place in the future. It should be an event that has already happened. If you're looking for more information about how to write a news report for the grade 10 literacy test, I've included a link right here. You just click on this blue link and it will take you to this PDF file. So this will give you more information, so please read it if you still have questions. And you'll even see some examples of how it's marked. And what are some real life examples that students wrote for the actual literacy test? So these are examples of perfect scoring responses. So you don't have to write anything there, but please read through that. Next is a news report outline. Usually I do this with the class, but because we're online, I thought that the easiest way to do this would be I write the outline, I give you the ideas, and your job is to turn these ideas into full sentences and paragraphs. So I gave you guys your opening, who the story is about. I give you guys the lead, the body, and the tail. I even give you guys the headline. The headline is DFC returns to school online. So for task 4, you aren't writing anything. I've already written it for you. What I'd like you to do for task 5, though, is use the ideas from the outline to write a news story about the headline on the next page. While the ideas were given to you by a teacher, it's up to you to put them into full sentences and paragraphs. Complete the organizer on the next page to write your news story about DSC's return to school online. So here's where you do the actual writing. You take ideas from paragraph 1, or the lead, part of the organizer, and turn them into proper paragraphs here. This is your body paragraph right here, and then finally your tail paragraph. So please refer back to this stuff to see what information to include. And actually, this attention grabbing opening, we can just copy and paste that into here. And now we want to go into answering the who, what, where, when, why, and how. So you talk about how DSE students from grades 9 to 12, they'll be attending class online this semester. So maybe we write that here. Students at Dennis Franklin Cromartie I should specify the grades. Grade 9 to 12 students. Classes online this semester rather than in person. And the important thing about news report stories is that they're typically, their paragraphs are shorter. So if your paragraphs are only 3 to 4 sentences, that's fine too. For example, I've already talked about these 2 things. So I just need to talk about the why, when, where, and how. So the first semester started online in September 2020 and was done to prevent students from catching and transmitting COVID-19 to throughout got an error there. Northwestern Ontario. All right, so let's see what else I need to include. Okay, so I need those pieces of information. And since that's a complete sentence, I can even copy and paste that complete sentence. Students typically attend school in Thunder Bay, but they'll be learning in their home communities throughout Northwestern Ontario. I'd say throughout the region, since I already mentioned that it's from Northwestern Ontario. And then finally, instead of social distancing, I can include that. Actually, I think a better place for that would be here, because I mentioned how classes will be online rather than in person. Actually, I can get rid of that whole sentence and just specify through Google. There you go. So I'm saying the same things, but just in fewer words. So my first paragraph could look like this. Back to school this year was definitely unusual for Canadian students, but even more so for students in a small high school in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Grade 9 to 12 students at Dennis Franklin Cromartie High School will be attending classes online through Google this semester rather than in person. The first semester started online in September 2020 and was done to prevent students from catching and transmitting COVID-19 throughout northwestern Ontario. Students typically attend a high school in Thunder Bay, but they'll be learning online in their home communities throughout the region. There we go. So I proofread, I read it. It has the 5 W's and 1 H, and it's a great lead-in to the rest of the story. So now it's up to you to write the body, and you can find information about the body right here. And the tail, which is right here. And I'll show you how to, so for example, we have some quotes in the body. I just made up a student's name, Jacob Anderson. I really wanted to be at school with my friends this year, but I totally understand why we have to attend school online. We need to keep the pandemic away from our home communities. So he's a grade 12 student. So you can say, according to grade 12 student Jacob Anderson. So I use quotation marks to signify it's the beginning of someone's speech or words. So this is an exact quote right here. I'll copy and paste that. I really want to be at school with my friends, but I totally understand. We could say, even though he DSC student, he wasn't the only one with pandemic concerns. And then I can go into my next quote. So that's how I want you to introduce quotes. I'll just delete that. And then your tail paragraph, you can write that on your own using ideas, which are located here. So you should have 3 paragraphs in total, and that's all the writing you'll be doing today. If you're able to write those 3 paragraphs, you'll have no problem writing a news report on the actual grade 10 literacy test next year. If you look on the back, you'll see today's learning goal, learning how to create an effective news story, success criteria. Remember, write in the third person perspective in past tense. Include the 5 W's and 1 H in your first paragraph. Provide quotes and additional details in your following paragraphs to develop your story. And most importantly, organize your ideas into properly written sentences and paragraphs. So if you follow all these steps, you'll have no problem getting a category 4 on everything. And if you still have questions, you can talk to me in the chat, on the stream, in Google Meet, or what I also recommend is click this link to see what students actually have written on the grade 10 literacy test for their news stories. All right, everyone, that's it for today's lesson, and just want to wish you guys good luck, and thank you once again for tuning in. Bye, everyone.